Hi everyone, it's Cea. I'm back again, and today I'm answering a question from Jennifer in Utah who would like to know about the publishing process. And so I'm going to talk about this in a general way and then a more specific way of how I experienced it. So when you write a book, let's say you finished your draft, you're super excited, you're like ready to try and find a publisher. Well, you can't just, email all these publishers and say, hi, want to read my book? You used to be able to do that, but you can't anymore because they're just too inundated with, manuscripts. So you have to find yourself an agent, a literary agent. And the way you do that is you go down to, well, you can do research on the internet, just Google literary agents. Or what I did, and I recommend this, is to go to your local bookstore and buy a book called Jeff Herman's Guide to Publishers and Agents. And he puts one out every year. And basically it lists all of the agents in the United States. And then there's another one that you can buy for the agents in Canada. And then you flip through, and I can't remember the name of that one, sorry, but just ask at the bookstore. And then you flip through this book and you basically just take a highlighter and you highlight all of the agents that represent the genre that you have written in, so in my case, memoir. And then you craft a brilliant query letter. Now, a query letter is probably, as a first-time author, the most important piece of paper you will ever write in your life. It's basically a one-page letter pitching your book to the agent. And you want to open with a really provocative, interesting first line, and then you want to go on to outline the plot, the general story in about one paragraph, maybe two, and then you want to tell the agent a little bit about yourself. And so you get this query letter done. Make sure you have people read it for you and give you feedback. Don't just bang off one copy and then say, okay, I'm done. You really need it to be perfect. And then you take your selected agents and you go onto their websites, each and every one of them, because every one of those agents will have different submission guidelines. And if you don't follow them exactly, your email, your query letter will be deleted without even being read. So some of them want you to email them, some of them want you to snail mail them, some of them want you to include one chapter, some of them want you to not include any chapters. So make sure, very important, you follow their guidelines. And then you wait, and the waiting process, you'll usually start getting a few responses within, a few days or a week. And then, you will continue to get responses until, about 3 months later. Some of them take a really long time to get back to you. But generally, if they're interested, you will hear back from them quite quickly, and they will say, yes, I'd love to read the first 2 chapters, or the first 50 pages, or the entire manuscript. And then you send it to them as promptly as possible, and make sure it's in the correct format. And that is double-spaced Times New Roman 12 point, but Google this so that you get it exact. And then you send it to them, and again you sit back and you wait, and some of them will come back and say, love the first 2 chapters, I want to read more. Some will say, not for me. And so at that point, you will either have an agent asking to represent you, you could have multiple agents asking to represent you, or you could have no agents offering to represent you. And if you're in the position of getting one or more, then obviously fantastic, you're on your way to the publishing process. If not, then you're back to the drawing board and you need to revisit your manuscript and, rewrite it, decide what you need to do to make it a better story, a better book. You also probably need to revisit your query letter and figure out how you can make that more effective. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit more personally now. So for me, it took me 6 years to get an agent for my first book, North of Normal, and that's not very encouraging, I know, but it's pretty typical story actually. So when I first started writing, I knew I had this great story, but I really wasn't a writer. And I banged off this this draft in like 3 months, and I was like, that was easy, and I really totally thought it was like amazing, and I thought I was going to get an agent right away. And so I sent off my query letters, and I just get rejection, 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 and they all say, well, you know, it's an interesting story, but you really need to work on your writing. So okay, and that's not when the point to give up, that's the point to step up. So I went back and I rewrote it a couple more times, and then I did my query process again. That time I got an agent. So excited, right? So excited. I've got an agent. He's in New York. What could go wrong? It's a done deal. Not so much. So if you're lucky, you will get an agent who will work with you to get your manuscript from the shape that it's in when the agent takes it on to the best shape it can possibly be in to submit to the publishers. That was not my experience with my first agent. He sort of took it as it was and just sent it out there. And I kind of had this like bad feeling that it wasn't quite good enough, but I thought, okay, we're doing this. But sure enough, it was rejected by every publisher in New York and Canada. So, and obviously, you know, he dropped me after that. So back to the drawing board. Again, do not give up, step up. So I went back and I rewrote it again and again and again. I worked on it for probably 2 more years. And then I thought, okay, it's ready, it's really ready. Sent out my query letters again. Nobody wanted it. Not one agent. I think only one even asked to read it. And she sent me back this letter saying, it's not very interesting, it'll never be published. Yeah. So anyway, I took a little break from writing at that point because I was very, very frustrated. But I always knew that I would not give up on this project until it was successful. So after about a year, I went back to the drawing board again and rewrote it and rewrote it. And I got it to a point where I thought, you know, it just felt different. It felt like this was the best thing I could possibly write. And sure enough, I sent out my query letters, and within a week I had offers from 5 agents. So that was amazing. And I ended up having signing with the most incredible agent ever. She's just so amazing because she also helps me edit and get my manuscripts ready for submission. So once I signed with my agent, then the publishing process begins. So what they do is they take your manuscript once it's in its best shape and they send it out to a few select editors. I think in my case, she sent it out to maybe 5. And then they set a date in the future, about 2 weeks into the future, where the agents, or sorry, the editors at these publishing houses are invited to put their offers in. So that's nerve-wracking because you're just sitting there waiting for this day to come and knowing that you could get like 5 offers, you could get 1 offer, you could get 0 offers. I mean, you know, as I knew, it's not a done deal until it's a done deal. So for me personally, I actually sold my book in a preempt, so it sold in like 24 hours or something. So I was very lucky that way, but that's not always the way it happens. And so after they buy the book, then the editing process starts, and that is long. And for me, it was very different with my 2 books. My first book, because I worked on it for so long, 6 years, it was actually quite close to being ready to be published. So I went back with my editor just maybe once or twice. And, you know, we just changed a few little things, nothing major. Then it goes into copy edit. So there's another editor that takes a look at it. And she does like the line by line edit and sends you the entire manuscript back. And you have to like, you know, okay every edit, and if you don't agree with one, then you can, you know, you don't have to agree with it, but sometimes you need to have a discussion about it. And this goes back and forth a few times, and then if it's a memoir, most likely your publisher will have a lawyer look at it for liability issues, and you may have to make a few changes after that conversation. And then it goes into one final edit, and then after that it's starting to go into print and all of that. So it is a very long process. It takes anywhere from 12 to 24 months for that process. So from the time you sign with a publisher to the time you actually see your book on the shelf is going to be a minimum 1 year, probably more like 2 years. And yeah, oh, and then I was going to tell you, right, for my second book, it was a very different process because I wrote my second book in about a year and a half, and it needed a lot of work, which I didn't think it did when I sold it, but it did. And so that, I think my editor and I went back and forth. I got like a 15-page letter from her, you know, with the suggested changes, which most of them were brilliant insights, and I'm, you know, so lucky to work with such an amazing editor. But we went back and forth quite a few times to get it right. And in the end, it became such a better book than it was when I, you know, had first given it to her. So I'm very grateful for that. So prepare to, you know, work a lot on that book, even after you think you've finished it and the publisher has bought it. You know, you've still got many drafts ahead of you, but it gets easier and it actually becomes pleasurable because you're working with someone who's giving you such valuable feedback. You're not just, you know, out there on your own like you are when you're first writing your book, just wondering if you're crazy, if, you know, if you're ever going to get published. So it's a different experience. And what else can I tell you? That's all I can think of right now. If you have any more specific questions about this, feel free to send me a message. I will feature it on an upcoming video. And please subscribe to my newsletter if you are enjoying this. Okay, have a great day. Bye.